Welcome. In this second video, we'll be looking at how to add headers and paragraphs to our web pages. The first thing that we'll see is that we're starting with the same file that we had from our previous example. So we'll go ahead and just change the title to something that relates better to what it is that we're actually doing. The other thing that we'll notice is that we have some text lying out here, and something that's important to notice about this text is that it has no HTML before or after it. It's very important that when we build web pages, we never leave text out without any HTML wrapping it. The first tag that we're going to use to wrap around text is the header1. If we were to look at this in the browser, we'd see that this is our main header for the page, H1, and it shows up bold and black with rather some large size font. The reason it looks this way is because the browser is applying styling to its CSS automatically. We're going to learn how to override that later, but for now, we'll just leave our pages looking like this. There are 6 levels of headers that you can use when making a web page, although the higher number ones, 4, 5, and 6, are not commonly used. And here's why. When you use a header, every web page needs to have a main level 1 header. Underneath that, if you have enough content that you need to have a subheading, we would simply go down to H2. However, like when you're creating lists, you don't want to divide something unless you have more than one division. So this would be an appropriate example of how to use a header level 2. Notice that we're not using an H2 just because it's the second header in the order, but because it's a subheader of H1. Likewise, we could further divide this by using an H3, which will then take our subheader for, that was the H2, and divide it further. And again, just like when making lists, you only want to make a subsection if you have, if you have 2 divisions for it. So you could see how we could keep on following this pattern to create an H4, H5, and H6, but it would be very deeply nested, and this level of specificity or division is not very common in websites. You'll find that most of the time, just having a main H1 on a page divided by H2s and H3s should be enough to do everything you want. The next tag that we're going to learn in this section is called the paragraph tag. Paragraph tag opens up with a P and closes with a P. What's interesting about this is that paragraph does not just mean 3 to 5 sentences as it would in English. A paragraph tag can be used for many lines of text, just one line of text, or even just a little phrase or 1 or 2 words. However, unlike the header tag, if we were to come down and add more text inside of our H2, notice that we do not say P2. There's only one paragraph tag, and it's always just P, so you'll never have a P1, P2, P3, etc. Headers do, because they show this subsectioning, but paragraphs do not. Let's go ahead and add some more paragraphs. And we'll be consistent in our spelling here. So before we look at this in the browser, what's important to notice is that although the header tags do increase in number as they begin to divide each other, the paragraph tags always stay as just a p tag, and you'll never see a p1, 2, or 3, or 4, etc. Even if we were to add another paragraph of text, notice that it would still just be a regular p tag. So if we save this and go over to the browser, we can see that there's a little bit of styling applied, that we have our header being the biggest, smaller one, smallest, smallest again, and then bigger again. And what we could begin doing later is adding some CSS to style that. But for now, what you have is the basic rule of how headers and paragraph tags should be used on a web page.